probably think this is impossible, and for good reason. This is the inventory required to go to y equals 1 million, and despite this, I fully plan on completing the challenge, even if it takes me 10 hours of flying alone. It was time to get started with attempt 2, because I had failed my first attempt on a hardcore world. Are you joking me? Right away, I got started on getting back to where I was on my other world. Basically, just your regular survival playthrough. A few basic resources, and then eventually I got to go mining and get iron, and soon enough, I'd found some diamonds. Yes. I wanted to head to the Nether quickly, so right away I found a lava pool and built my portal there. Oh my god. Is there like a monster spawner? Holy crap. What have I done? Once I'd lit my nether portal, finding the fortress in the nether was quite the struggle. It ended up being buried in a wall, which was more than annoying. It's right there. You're joking me, bro. In the fortress, I then collected the blaze rods I needed. I got 15 just to be safe, and then I left the fortress to return to the overworld. On the way though, I ended up finding a ruined portal, so I just left through there. Let's do it. The next goal was to find a village, so I left the nether and went to explore. On the way though, I found a pillager outpost, and if you didn't know, these have to generate with a village nearby. So I was guaranteed to find one relatively quickly, and so I did. Oh, there's the village. No, wait, game, can you relax, please? Why is that a thing? Oh, I hate that. Why is that a thing? I had just found an abandoned village. I haven't yet explained the plan. Like I stated earlier, this is the inventory required to go to 1 million. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think this is how our inventory works.
The boost works for so much longer. So far it's got me up 1,000 blocks and there's still no sign of slowing. It was 1,750-ish, something like that.
Turns out, if you lag your Minecraft world, the elytra and firework rockets last much longer than they're supposed to. And this is exactly how I'm going to reach this milestone. Luckily, abandoned villages still have zombie villagers, so I made it my plan to get the resources to convert them. I got gold for golden apples and brewed the weakness potions. On the bright side of this all, the cured zombie villagers will have reduced trades, so it's not all that bad. Next, I went and built a villager breeder as the zombie villagers converted, and once they had converted, I brought them into the breeder. There was still a little bit of work to be done, like adding the beds and finishing the crops, as well as adding a lightning shield so the villagers couldn't be turned into witches. After waiting for a bit, there were 4 new villagers in the breeder. Next, I converted 2 more zombie villagers in the abandoned village and converted one of them into an armorer. From the armorer, I bought diamond gear, and at this point, I was feeling a little bit safer about my playthrough. My next project was to make an iron farm. I wasn't going to do anything crazy, just enough so I didn't have to mine for iron anymore. I then went AFK for around 4.5 hours. When I got back from AFKing, I was a little disappointed by how much I had gotten, but then after surfacing, I realized why. The composter which had held the zombie had burned, I guess, so I replaced that with a cauldron and got a new zombie. With the base shaping up, the next step was to fight the Ender Dragon. I grabbed some Eyes of Ender and began the search. And I did not have to search long, because it was under 400 blocks away from my base. Once I got into the stronghold, I had an extremely quick navigation to the portal room. Oh, that was not planned. And then I entered the end. With the Ender Dragon out of the way, the next goal was to get 3 pairs of elytra. Now, I don't know exactly what happened with the end, but I had some of the worst luck I've ever seen. After looking back at the video file, I had been searching aimlessly around the end for over 30 minutes without finding an end city. Finally, I had found my first end city, and it had the chain reaction of leading to me finding 6 more, 3 of which had elytra. After getting the final elytra, I found an exit portal and went to the main end island, and from there I just left the end. The ultimate goal was to slow down the world, and I'm going to be doing this using, in theory, the game's most powerful lag machine, showcased by The Horizon and designed by Blocks and More. If you've watched this video, you would know that this machine requires a lot of iron. I wasn't going to do anything crazy, just enough so I didn't have to mine for iron anymore. That single cell iron farm was never gonna cut it, so I opted to build arguably one of the game's best iron farms. Nembomb's 9,000 per hour. Unfortunately, to build this farm, it required me to find packed ice, which led me on a very long journey. Once I'd found the packed ice, I gathered the amount I needed, and then soon enough I began my journey home. I then gathered materials to build a super smelter because there was a ton of sand that needed to be smelted into glass to build the farm. After that, I started mining sand in the small desert that was nearby my village. I also got wood and wool, and then finally the most important part, the pillager. This was super convenient because the pillager outpost was just right next to my base. I then had to break his crossbow, which you can do very easily by the way, just by sitting in a boat with him for a while. Yo! After doing that, there were just a few more materials to gather, such as crimson logs and lava. Finally, it was time to start construction. And let me just say, building this thing was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in this game. So please, enjoy. So, hard part out of the way, right? 60 villagers, all transported into a 1x1 space. One mistake, and they're in the ocean. There was no point delaying, so right away I got to work. From my original villager beater, I made a track to the farm and took 3 villagers at a time for each pod. I needed night so that the villagers could sleep, so during the daytime I built tracks to other pods. And so that's what I did for a ridiculous amount of time. Eventually I got the hang of it, and since I had a considerable amount of pods already constructed, I decided to put the pillager in the farm. But then this happened. Soon enough, I got another pillager, brought him to the base, and continued work on the farm. I had to deal with a bit of villager pathfinding. That is the strangest pathfinding I've ever seen. No. Eventually, I got it done. This was a terrible grind, but it was necessary for what I was going to do. With iron checked off the list, there was only one thing left to get: a Flight Duration 3 firework rockets. I quickly got to work getting the materials necessary to build a gunpowder farm, which was exponentially easier than the iron farm. With the materials in hand, I quickly constructed the farm just right next to the iron farm. The construction was super painless, and I got it done in around an hour. The final ingredient in a firework rocket is of course paper, so I farmed up sugarcane for that. And with all those farms completed, the final step was just to AFK. After AFKing, there was a ton of resources left in the farm chests. I then crafted all of the iron into iron blocks. I also began to grab gunpowder and sugarcane to craft the amount of firework rockets I needed. And so this is what I did, AFKing, crafting iron blocks and firework rockets until I had 2 full shulker boxes of iron and a full inventory of Flight Duration 3 rockets. With my inventory set up, the last thing to do was to build the lag machine. I started off by heading to the nether and constructing a 4-chunk long tunnel. I made a small base of operations, and then I laid down rails for the remainder of the tunnel. 2 chunks away from the base, I built the actual lag machine. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can set my render distance down to 2 chunks and not look at the minecarts. I then built another portal and later chunk loader, which is how I will turn on and off the machine. Basically what this machine does is spit items back and forth through the nether, loading the chunks and the minecarts on the other side. If the chunks are loaded, the game's gonna lag. If they're not loaded, the game will run like normal. With that part out of the way, it was time to place the minecarts. The reason I wasn't lagging here is because I'd set my render distance down to 2 chunks. The railway ended 2 chunks away, preventing me from rendering them. After about 30 minutes of this, I felt satisfied that I had enough minecarts. And then it was time to give the machine a test run. I went and loaded the machine, and sure enough, the world was lagging significantly. I then tested a firework rocket, and it lasted way longer than a firework rocket should. Loading chunks was a bit tricky, but I figured out if you paused the game, the chunks would load like normal, so I made my way back to the base. What? I had survived for exactly 100 days without a death. Call this my 100-day challenge. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to completely restart. I've lost enough of my sanity with this challenge already, so I switched the world into survival. I had literally everything prepared. The only thing left to do was the flight itself. So that is exactly what I did. $100K. Oh, holy crap. 100K why? It's halfway. Nothing to add to it. And there it is. Halfway. halfway to 1 million. I really don't know what to think about this. This firework rocket puts us over. It's over. It's over. Oh my god. It's actually over.